And we welcome you to this edition of Night Shift Live. I'm Eric Lopez alongside Don Strouble. UCF loses again 31-21. It is official. UCF, if you cared, will not be going to a bowl game for the first time since 2015. Coming up on this edition of Night Shift, we'll recap the UCF West Virginia lost at West Virginia. What does this mean for this program moving forward? And what the heck does anybody want to win the Big 12? Because I'm not sure anybody does, based on some of what's going on across the board. Don, how you doing?
Doing well, Elo. Better than this program, I can say that much, and better than probably a lot of Night Nation because at least I can hide behind a level of objectivity in being in the position of a journalist. A lot of these people, got diehard alums out there, current students, donors, people. I mean, they have got to be furious, and rightfully so. They're in a bad way.
Yeah, that's an understatement. That's an understatement. UCF loses 31-21. You look at the stats, maybe a little misleading because really it never felt close. West Virginia jumped out to a 14-0 lead, just gashed UCF all game long. They ended up running for 200 yards in the ball game. I'll be honest with you, Don. I'm surprised it's that low. It felt more if you watched it without box score. And don't be fooled. UCF ran for $176. RJ Harvey scored for $130, 2 touchdowns. A lot of that was in garbage when the game was already decided. West Virginia did whatever they wanted. Green threw for $118 and a touchdown, ran for 49. Honestly, I was shocked when they threw the football more. West Virginia had the ball for 37 and a half minutes. UCF had 22 minutes. West Virginia 75 plays, UCF 55. How about this stat, Don? West Virginia 8 for 18 on third downs. UCF 3 for 9 on third downs. It's just
I feel like every time I come on the show, I'm repeating the same issues over and over again. Losing time of possession and poor third down efficiency. It's the same story since, I don't know, beginning of October. I first noticed it against Colorado. It really started to show a trend after the Florida game, and they've just never improved. Yeah.
I think you make a great point. As we'll dig in deep on where this season went wrong. That's a good start. It never recovered from the Colorado game when they got their ass kicked. Who, by the way, last I checked, was getting their ass kicked at Kansas because why not? By the way, if those of you that are watching this live, if you see me turning around, I'm trying to see the finish of this wacky Arizona State BYU game, which has major significance to the Big 12 title game. Unfortunately, UCF is not in that conversation, Don, and that's why there's a lot of upset people right now, Don. And people wondering about what is the future of this program as the Hail Mary is caught and it's down at the 2. Oh, my goodness. And Arizona State holds on to win, and they storm the field for the second time in this game. Folks, if you missed it, Arizona State had got an interception. I swear, we'll get to UCF, but this Arizona State BYU game was just too insane. Me and Don were talking off the air. Arizona State got an interception. They had the ball first and goal inside the 10. They get the ball down inside the 5. BYU uses their last timeout, 50 seconds to go. Kenny Dillingham, for whatever reason, instead of just going ahead running normal plays trying to score, goes backwards to try to chew up the clock, and it backfired on him as they throw the ball away on fourth down from their 49-yard line, from the BYU 49-yard line. The crowd storms the field, but they reviewed it. They said there was 1 second left on the clock. They had to move everybody off the field. BYU gets a chance. They throw a Hail Mary. It got completed in around the 2-yard line, and then now the fans have stormed again for the second time. What a bizarre finish. But as a result of that, we have a 4-way tie with Arizona State, Iowa State, Colorado, and BYU for first place in the Big 12. I have no clue about what that means from a tie-breaking standpoint. I don't know what that means from the Big 12 playoff scenario because that's not looking good for them. They got some help they need. But unfortunately, Don, none of this involves UCF. And a lot of people thought before the year that we would be doing this show talking about UCF's chances, at least being in the mix for the Big 12 title game. They are not even close to that. And I guess my question to you is, what's your thoughts overall here now? I mean, yes, we'll discuss of what went wrong in this game, but I think we're at the point now, Don, where the fan base doesn't really care as much about this singular game. We can talk about specific things, but the bottom line is the big picture now, and it's a 4-7, and where do we go from here? And what could be lied ahead for a season that will probably go down as one of the most, if not the most disappointing season in the history of this program when you consider what was at stake with a playoff opportunity, a winnable Big 12, right? It's not like there's a dominant team. And they went all in. Gus and everybody went in all in, and it didn't work even remotely close.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said everything that I was about to, Elo, and you can repeat it back to yourself again and for the audience. 4-way tie for the Big 12, and it's just like you look at teams that started off well. I mean, Arizona started out as a ranked team. You had Iowa State looking like a powerhouse. BYU, I mean, they were damn near a top 5 team. And then everything started to fall apart at the end. You have Kansas just being these world beaters. They've beat 3 ranked opponents in a row. And so, yeah, you look at all the parity that this conference presented that has been, and I've said this so many times off the air, and we've talked about it too, the Big 12 is characterized as a basketball conference. You had all this parity on the football side of things, and UCF goes out and Gus recruits his ass off in the offseason, gets all these players to come in, and then it's just an absolute dud. They are bottom feeders again. And it's just one of those things where it's like, this is the first time since 2015, the last year that George O'Leary was coach at UCF, that they will miss a bowl game. They fall to 4-7. They're 2-6 in conference play. And it's just, how many of these games were winnable? How many times? I mean, yeah, sure, the Colorado game was a blowout, but you look at a game like Iowa State, they had it. Poor discipline lost in that game. You look at a game like Arizona State, even more so, poor discipline. So there was plenty of times they could have gotten back on track, and they didn't take the opportunities that were ahead of them. And so
thing is, you were close against 2 of the 4 teams that are co-tied for first, Iowa State, and then Arizona State. You were close in those 2 games. And again, the other thing that's bothersome, the Colorado game. Remember, UCF had a bye week, and they were favored by like double digits. And you saw how they just got blasted. They had a bye week going into this game, Don, and yet felt like they just weren't there. And they found themselves down 2 touchdowns and just didn't feel like they were in this game at all. And that's the thing that's disturbing, is you had a bye week. West Virginia didn't. Again, it just bizarre.
Yeah, this is a team that just never seems to be buttoned up and ready to go when it matters most. I mean, I know we'll talk more about the game, but just one little thing there, 8 penalties for 58 yards. I mean, I'm pretty sure West Virginia only had 2 or 3 penalties for about 30 yards. So it's like just lack of discipline. Another thing, as just an overall aside here in a statistic, UCF has gone from 5th to 10th in the Big 12 in defense from last season to this season. Additionally, they went from 6th.
Wait, say that again. Say that again.
Yeah, they went from 5th to 10th in defense.
Total defense.
Yeah, total defense in their ranking in the Big 12 from last season to this season. So, I mean, anyone with eyes who has been watching these games could see that there was a precipitous drop-off, but that's what the numbers tell us. They went from 6th to 15th in passing from last season to this season in the Big 12 as a result of their QB carousel that they have had going. And I think that really highlights the reliance on RJ Harvey to get this offense to do anything at all. Oh, you're muted, Elo.
Yeah, right. Thank you for reminding me. I'm just all over the place right now.
That's
People
okay.
are messaging me all over the place. But that's an interesting. The passing doesn't surprise, right? When you play 4 different quarterbacks this year, and that's not a surprise. The defensive stat. Broadcast.
Yeah, the broadcast said that no other team has started as many quarterbacks. Yeah. No other team in FBS. And I'm guessing FCS too. I'd have to look, but no other team in college football has started this.
Well, and think about this. Don. Look at the 2 big moves that you see. Look, there were a lot of moves that were made, but 2 of the biggest. You went for the quarterback, and KJ Jefferson. Didn't work out. Defensively, you added linebackers, right? You added all these defensive pieces. Repeat again what you said about the defensive stats.
Fell from 5th to 10th from 2023 to 2024 in terms of Big 12 standings for that metric.
So that's pretty alarming. I believe they're giving up more points this year than they did last year. From what I saw, they're in the hundreds there. Yeah. And the bottom line is they were expecting, when Gus hired Ted Roof, they were expecting them to make a big jump defensively. That never happened. That did not happen. We can break down why it didn't happen, but it didn't happen. Whereas in comparison, Arizona State, think about Arizona State, what they just did. They held BYU to 23 points. That's not what UCF did they?
No,
they're not. That's the difference. The reason why Arizona State, Colorado, Iowa State, and BYU are all tied for first in the Big 12 is they all improved defensively. They made a jump from last year to this year. This defense for UCF did not. And what's funny was, well, the talk was, well, look how well they've improved against the run. They've been able to stop the run. Nope, they didn't stop the run.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah, UCF, it looks like they're giving up an average of 26.5 thereabout points per game. That puts them solely in the 10th spot. Only teams behind them are TCU, Baylor, Arizona, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech. So talk about a lot of teams there that aren't even bowl eligible, and UCF falls right into that mix. Another thing with this game specifically, West Virginia has given up an average of 30 points per game. UCF can only put 21 on the board. And with one of those touchdowns coming in what many might consider to be garbage time. I know the announcers were talking it up like, oh, they have life. They're restoring life. There was 5 minutes left. You're down several possessions.
Listen, as a fellow broadcaster, you got to keep people interested. You got to keep
them. Of course. You have a job to do.
I'm going to defend the broadcasters.
Oh, 100%.
I'm defending them there.
Yeah, but I think that realistically, knowing this offense and knowing their capabilities, maybe some top tier team would be able to put together some sort of comeback. But it wasn't going to happen for this team. I mean, they even on the onside kick, they didn't even, I don't think, got it to the 10-yard minimum point.
What'd you think of them going for the onside there with about 5 minutes to go? I know the analyst Kirk Morrison didn't like it. Some people didn't like. What did you think of that?
I think that it just highlights a level of desperation that we've seen all season. I wouldn't be surprised if there were talks on the sidelines that came down to the last possible second of them trying to decide what the hell they were going to do in that situation. I just feel like it really just highlights and underscores the instability within this program that has led to another losing season. I mean, once again, like, how many times has UCF been favorited going into a game?
Can we stop picking us to be favorites? I learned my lesson. I picked West Virginia.
Yeah. No, it hasn't.
Let's Papa Z, Bowie, send your comments. Send your comments and questions here, folks. We'll try to answer them as much as we can. Papa Z coming in. Eric, what did you think of Dylan Risk today? I know you've been talking about him possibly being the future. Do you think Dylan played? I think he played decent, but not well enough to be a lock for the future. No, that's fair. What did you think, Don, of Dylan Risk performance today? Granted, I don't think it was kind of a slick conditions. It looked like it rained, and obviously it snowed before the game, the days before the game and slick. But he went 11 of 21, $172, a touchdown, no interceptions. I mean, before you blinked in an eye, he was down 14, but you could see what some of the issues there. West Virginia obviously has seen tape on Risk. I thought they pressured him pretty good. What did you think of Dylan today?
He's come back down to earth. I think that the Arizona game was an anomaly. I don't want to call it a fluke. I was hopeful for him moving forward. But, I think it's one of those things where that was a nice deep ball to Kobe. He put it right in his chest. Kobe clearly burned his man and beat him on that route. So it was kind of what some might consider a routine ball. He didn't have to fit it into a tight window, or he didn't have the contest of the corner on Kobe trailing him immediately on his hip. So I think that, and that was, again, a deep ball. So a lot, there is a world where Dylan Risk doesn't even throw for 100 yards if that touchdown pass doesn't happen. And you look at 11 of 21, 52%, that kind of falls in line with what we've seen from Jakari Brown and KJ Jefferson this season as well. You want to look at some advanced stats here. On deep passing, he was 3 for 7, which falls just below the 50% mark. On medium passing yards, these are advanced analytics, just 3 for 9. It was only on short passing. He was 5 for 6 where he was efficient, but that's kind of been the character of this UCF offense is they don't go over the top. They don't challenge teams to beat them downfield. There's no big, deep, spectacular plays with this team because they are so reliant on the run. And I don't think that any of these quarterbacks are really primed to throw deep. I will say from a mechanics standpoint, I am the most impressed with Dylan's downfield accuracy out of the 3 quarterbacks that I've seen. But I don't know, especially if Gus Malzahn is not here next season and they are trying to rebuild under a new coaching staff, unless they can really unlock something in this kid, I think he just kind of falls in line with slightly above average, and he's young. Yeah, he's young. I mean, he's a redshirt freshman. I haven't seen anything where I'm like, wow, this isn't like a DJ Lagway situation at Florida.
Oh, he's not. He's not Lagway. You're right. That's a good. Lagway has saved Billy Napier's job. And look, Florida's going to go to a bowl game. They're 6-5. Who would have said that beginning of the year? Give them credit. Yeah. They got better.
The way they've done it, back-to-back weeks beating LSU and now Ole Miss.
They got better as the year went on. UCF never got better.
UCF
right, and that's going to bring up a lot of questions now. What you mentioned it next year. If you're Gus, do you want to come back and rebuild this? Because this is going to take a rebuild for next year. You lose a lot of personnel. You're going to be young. There's questions about your recruiting class here in the next month or two. What is that going to look like? Are you able to be able to go to the transfer portal again and build this team? Because I don't think the donors are going to be all in on that like they were this past year. So I think there's a lot of soul searching that has been going on there, and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anybody does, but I think there's going to be a lot of soul searching. It probably happened during the bye week, and it's probably going to continue. But I think at a minimum, you're going to see some changes. To what degree remains to be seen. But Don, I'm not sure right now that if I was a staff member, I would feel real comfortable right now over there.
No, how could you? Elo, I was looking at something while I was eating breakfast yesterday. So UCF, when they came into the Big 12, they actually had some financial struggles because of the exit fee that they had to pay the American. Yep. They lost revenue because of their operating costs going up. Then you go and get a 600,000-ish thereabout. I'm just tossing a loose number. Quarterback in KJ Jefferson.
6 figures. We'll say 6 figures. Let's say 6 figures.
Six figures. We'll keep it loose. That you effectively bench after week 5, and then you have 7 players enter the portal.
Wait. Okay, fair. No, don't forget, you hired a defensive coordinator that a lot of people question, who had been in many different places. You paid him over $1 million?
He was a retread hire, and now you owe him, I believe it's $1.1 million. Over the next 2. So it's like that's money you could have put in NIL for players. And now you're paying a guy that you're never going to see again. And who knows if things don't work out with Gus, then you're dealing with his buyout. Now, again, that's all speculation right now. I'm not trying to break any news or anything like that. Again, pure speculation. But there's no good financial path forward for this team. So whatever changes they're going to want to make, whether it's on the recruiting trail or the coaching staff, they're going to have to go bargain hunting. What do you do with that?
Well, the problem is football. It is a sport. You cannot fail. You cannot fail. And if you have fan bases and donors upset, it is hard to overcome that. And we saw Terry Mohajir come out and say that season tickets will not be increased. That was interesting. You don't see that often. That tells you there's a lot of angry people. And in college sports, when people, especially donors, are upset, anything can happen. Nothing would surprise me what happens here moving forward. Nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really do. And I didn't feel that way up until the last few weeks because I underestimated the frustration and the anger. This is very high level frustration and anger. And listen, somebody joked to me the other day, hey, welcome. Now you know what it's like to be a power conference. This is life in the power conference where there's high expectations every year. And what hurts, here's what hurts UCF, right? Because the argument is going to be, some would say, well, wait a minute, you're only in year 2 of the Big 12. SMU, year 1, ACC title game. Congrats. BYU, year 2, Big 12 in the mix for the Big 12 title game. Everybody else is doing very well.
And let's rewind 10 minutes back to the main point here. Parity, people. This conference was open for the taking. I don't think even many people expected Colorado to be as good as they have, and they just got upset by Kansas.
No, the bottom, what's funny is the teams that are at the top, Arizona State, BYU, Colorado, were picked near the bottom of the Big 12. The teams that were favorite, Utah, Arizona, are all near the bottom because they've had disastrous seasons. It is a league that's a fun league to follow, but it's not a great league. There's not a great team there. There's a good chance right now. There's a better than 50-50 chance that the Big 12 champion will miss the playoffs. That is amazing to me. And UCF couldn't take advantage of that. In a year where you had 5 conference home games. It's not like you had 5 road games. This was the year. This was where you had your franchise running back. You had your quarterback. You had all this. And you don't, you go with 4 wins.
Yeah, exactly. And, you talk about the frustration within the donors, the fan base. This has gone from possible dissent to maybe a full-on mutiny. I mean, there's just pure anger.
Well, right. How do you get the confidence back of those people? How do you get the confidence back?
It might not even happen next season. And, I know that we can look at, right after George O'Leary left, you got Scott Frost, and we know the success that they had for a couple seasons.
Well, the difference there was the O'Leary one was clear cut. They quit on him. They quit on him. I don't think this team necessarily quit on Gus. It just wasn't good enough.
I think they have. I think
you can make the argument at times today.
I think that the portal entries kind of highlight some of that quitting.
To some, that's more of my watching your own interest, which could be the other problem. When you go in the portal a lot, you're getting a lot of individuals. Do you build the team bonding chemistry, which I do think is important in football? I don't think this team ever had that. This team ever had that. And I remember when the 4 captains were announced, they were all transfers. Granted, RJ's been here a while, so I don't think that counts. But nonetheless, that threw a red flag to some people. I didn't think of it as a big deal at the time, but I know some people did. So, all right, let's bring out Kyle Nash, who just finished writing his beautiful night class. Can't wait to see those grades. I can hear myself on the echo, Kyle. Good to hear you. I'd rather hear you than me.
Well, that's great. And all this crap with this stupid thing and technical difficulties with StreamYard, which sucks. It's all wonderful. I do 3 other podcasts a week in the form of the Student of the Game and the Do-Wall Dive, and I have no problems there. But thank you, StreamYard. That's wonderful. We can adjust all of that here, though, on the fly, because we're professionals. And in being a professional, I'm going to do a lot more than whine and cry about false comparisons and various other things that are taking place here. Now, apparently, I'm having...
All right, well, I got a question, Pip. All right, you sound good now. You sound good, by the way, Kyle.
I might sound good, but I can't see you on my screen. That's fine. So just keep in mind, from my perspective, this is...
I'm not a pretty face, in fairness. It's probably doing you a favor, because I'm not that pretty.
Dox is a handsome man. It's okay.
Well, fair enough. There you go, Don. All right, Kyle, let's give me your thoughts before somebody has a specific question for you, but I want your thoughts first on this game.
Yeah, listen, I mean, from a football perspective, let's start there before I start going after silly comparisons to the ACC and oil money and things like that. I have to admit, where I will take my hat off to West Virginia is they've done something as a game plan that no other team has done thus far, in my opinion, on UCF's schedule. But Kyle, they've lost so many games. Yeah, a lot due to self-inflicted wounds too. We'll be clear to that. And then also, and we've talked about this, Eric, in both the Colorado and Gator games, they were elements of the roster where they were just simply out-talented, right? In the case of Colorado, it was skill players. In the case of Florida, it was the trench players, right? But with West Virginia, well, let me put it this way. Your favorite guy, Dalen Dotson, they were avoiding him and the defensive tackles like the plague. If you look at the opening attack there in the first quarter, where their running back had 89 yards on the ground by himself, they ran right at Nigel Kelly and dared him to make a stop. He was not doing it early. And then, of course, Dylan Risk has the early mistake and a particularly abysmal game overall with 116 yards. Listen, I get it. He's a third game starter, but people keep asking the question of Gus Malzahn, why was he on the fourth string? We learned that tonight. And of course, before I get too far in cracking on the offense, let's please again watch and marvel at RJ Harvey. That is clearly the brightest and shiniest spot of this football team with his 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, tying him for the record with Kevin Smith, if you haven't mentioned that already. But then after that first quarter, Eric, if I told you the Knights held the Mountaineers to a -9 yards rushing, you wouldn't believe me. And I wouldn't blame you for that. But the statistics, I checked it 3 times. That's what happened. So Kyle, then what happened? 70 yards of, I think it was 116. Like I said, my visual has gone down trying to fix my audio here on this because I'm having a great time here at the Student of the Game Studios.
You're sounding great. I mean, you're sounding great. So I'm just.
It's the stats I can't see right now. But the West Virginia quarterback had like 112, 116 yards, fewer than Dylan Risk's 170 something that he finished with eventually. But he had 70 of those in the second quarter, taking advantage of the defense adjusting to that run attack. And we saw a lot of mismatches that came up. The touchdown in particular, you, me, and Donnie Dox all commented in our group chat about how wide open he was as they saw Deshaun Pace as a linebacker isolated in coverage, and it was an easy completion from his perspective. It was all about the Mountaineers playing what I thought was smart football, taking the defensive tackles out of the game, taking Dalen Dotson out of the game and making sure they avoided it at most costs. And on the rare occasions that there was a stop on the ground, it was due to those big dudes and the occasional step up from Nigel Kelly when he finally did get support in that second quarter. He had 2 tackles for loss in that quarter alone, even though he had a game where he was being challenged directly and run right at and past. And it's not, I point out Nigel Kelly, not that it's just him, but they were attacking that edge. There was even one part, Eric, where they had the short field, where the ball was spotted on that hash that made it a shorter field on that edge's side. And they were still able to come back across the field because everybody else that wasn't a large man was taking horrible tackling angles. It was really just an embarrassing performance all the way around in the trenches. Linebackers getting caught in the wash. To the credit of the Mountaineers, they were using a lot of tight end trap, getting Ethan Barr stuck in the wash. And Zaire Alexander made some plays. But listen, Eric, I think the biggest stat, I mentioned all the other stuff, even 200 total ground yards from West Virginia and nearly 38 minutes of time of possession. Here's the stat that drives all of that. The first 10 third downs were converted. 7 of them were converted. That's why you saw 21-7 in the first half. And I know that UCF closed the gap, but let's be honest, fellas, was it really ever that close?
No, I don't think it was. And that's the thing. They couldn't get off the field. That's been a narrative all year. And West Virginia gashed them. And then all of a sudden it opened up the passing game. And, that red zone touchdown right before the half to me was the backbreaker pace. Don, you got a question for Kyle?
No, I mean, I agree with everything he says. I mean, that's great analysis on his part. I think it's interesting, Kyle. So one thing I was talking about with Elo before you got here, UCF in the Big 12 has fallen from 5th in their defensive rating to 10th in terms of their ranking. Do you think that a lot of that is a symptom of them just getting into the games too late? Because we've seen a lot of highlights of them throughout the season of, okay, they're putting pressure on, they're doing things right. What's going wrong in all of these games? I mean, if you could summarize it into one point that has seen them take such a precipitous drop-off in the Big 12 rankings in terms of their defensive standing.
Well, and is that ranking based on yards or scoring? Let me ask that first.
Well, I believe, let me see here. Just because I don't want to misquote or miscue anything.
I think we're scoring. They're actually worse. They're worse than 10th. I know that.
And that's why I asked. But
in pass defense, 10th overall in scoring.
Well, and it starts with them taking advantage. Where are they getting most of the big plays overall in the season, gentlemen? And I know tonight there were a lot of big plays on the ground. Like I said, I can make the argument that this was their worst ground performance defensively of the season, and I don't know that it's particularly close when I really think about it. But to answer your question, the defense has been put in a hole. If it was based on scoring, my immediate question is, are we including things like special teams putting the defense 14 points back? Are they accounting for that in some of the analysis too, right? A lot of it is all self-inflicted crap for the most part. That I think has put them down in games.
Well, I think it's fair to say there's not one particular side of the ball that deserves all the blame. I think there's plenty of blame to share in the struggles. Special teams has had their issues. Offense has had issues. I don't think it's an exclusive company here.
Yeah, I think the reason why I make the point about special teams that I do, though, Elo, and granted, we can, if you want to get into the nitty gritty of what percentage of what, that's fine. I think overall on the year, the defense in a lot of ways did improve from last year, but they got weaker in other places.
Right.
I would make the argument that the secondary is considerably worse than last year.
I agree. 100%. Yeah, I agree. Why do you think that is?
What's that?
Why do you think that is?
What
happened
think that
to the
is?
secondary? Yeah.
Well, because what happened to the secondary? The turnover, man. There was a lot of turnover with that particular position group. And then there was also kind of a change in the attack. And this is me more speculating. We heard early on from players and coaches at the time, Ted Roof, alike, saying that they're going to play more aggressive and that they're going to be going for more turnovers. And while they did get some games with significant turnover production, overall, what I think we started to see there was that focus on trying to get the sack or the strip, not the sack, the fumble or the strip or the interception turned into a few extra yards and big plays given up.
Yeah, well, I would say this much. Hudson Clement really exploited that weak secondary that we've talked about with all the turnover. I mean, what the hell was Chasen Johnson doing with 2.5 minutes left going like this after he happened to catch up with him on that weird pass play? It's like, man, you've been burned all night. Like, what are you doing? Like,
America, realize our basketball expert is calling you out. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's how you know it's bad, guys.
Well, I think there's just so many things. I mean, I think the defensive line overall is better than last year, but they did struggle. I think they struggle. What's frustrating, I think, to fans is, you see, I think their defensive line really took a different level when Dotson moved back to his natural position. They moved him opposite, and all of a sudden you saw more pressure. Because remember, early in the year, Kyle, there was no pressure from the defensive line, which in the secondary.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the frustration is, are these guys being, some would say, I'm not saying I'm in this camp, but there are people that are saying, are these guys being put in the best position to succeed?
I think there's an element, and I'm not making fun of you, Eric, because this was a popular opinion out there in Night Nation, but I think there's an element when John Walker got hurt that they were overreacting to put somebody in that space for that rotational piece, right? When they realized, hey, maybe that's not the answer because we can't get a darn thing on the edge, and maybe we rely on Ricky Barber and Lee Hunter and Nate Alexander to just be a three-man rotation mostly. If we rely more on that and put Dotson over in his natural position, maybe it'll help. But they had to get to that slap in the face moment of, okay, listen, we've had all these games, there's no sacks. We need to stop being scared and try stuff. To your point that you made earlier this year, Eric, that's how much change. Gus Malzahn threw the kitchen sink at trying to find a way to get this team.
Oh, he did.
And isn't that yet again another indictment on the instability and the indecision that has plagued this whole program, going all the way back to John Walker's injury preseason, not having another plan in place, and you have to wait for the slap in the face moment, which they've never recovered from.
I see where you're going, but I think there's an element of the benefit of hindsight with that too, Don Docs. Like where I'm at is, for one, let's be clear, and here's my opinion on it because I know we're gonna get to it and we're gonna bring it up. If and when Gus Malzahn is let go by the program, I think for me the main point, and there's going to be several obviously, but for me the main failure is, especially with this year's expectations, is going to be the miss on KJ Jefferson, right? It's
Huge.
the thing that's most glaring and most obvious because it involves the most famous position on the roster. It's the one that's most fiscally significant to all the people that make those decisions nowadays here in college football. And I think it speaks to the recruiting part of the program where Gus is supposed to be the expert. He's broken all these records in recruiting in each of his years at UCF, but to have that big a recruiting miss be that loud in the public, so to speak, and hit people the hardest in the wallet that are making the decisions, I think those things all combined make that kind of the biggest block in what stumbles Gus out the building if it happens.
Well, then in
Yeah,
that
I agree.
mean,
But let me just step in here, Don. I agree
Yeah.
with Kyle. Like we're going to nitpick and we're going to talk about the defense and other positions of the roster. But as we all know, doesn't matter what level it is. If you've got a quarterback that's a difference maker, a quarterback can hide a lot of flaws. Let's not pretend that didn't happen in 2017 and 18. It wasn't like 17 and 18 it wasn't like they had like top 10 defenses in the country, all right? And you're right, and I think what hurts Gus there is the quarterback position has been part of the narrative of the Gus era, going back to the Dylan. There's just been so much drama, Kyle, regardless of what side you take on all this stuff, there's been so much chatter going back to Dylan Gabriel. Does he fit here? Does he not? Then he bolts and all that. Then you have the whole JRP versus Mikey Keene stuff. You have JRP getting hurt, and then you got Timmy McClain who you bring in. You bring in KJ, and that's supposed to be the perfect fit, and it doesn't work. And
you're leaving out Tommy Castellanos and the
Tommy Castellanos bolts as well. It's just been a part of the huge narrative that hasn't been resolved. And then I will throw another one there. Mikey Keene literally quitting on the team in the American Conference Championship game, choosing not to play, choosing to another year. And, oh, by the way, last I heard, people wanted him benched at Fresno State. So good to see that's going well for him.
Well, yeah,
so
I mean,
that's,
I don't want to
all of that, whether, again,
Yeah.
I'm not saying all that was Gus's fault in it, but unfortunately, Kyle, that is part of the narrative, to your point, where the KJ thing, everybody literally invested to solve this.
Yeah, literally. I like how you're putting that. That's absolutely right. Yeah.
That's the new era. We can say it now. We can say it.
Yeah, well, we keep saying new. We're in it, man. Like the future is now, Night Nation, right?
So to go back to your oil money comment in the beginning, Kyle, isn't there some like relevance to what Elo and I were talking about before you jumped on the air? Because as I said, UCF saw their revenue share go down. Upon joining the Big 12, they had to pay the exit fee from the American, and then the operating costs went up. And then you go and we talk about, the fiscal responsibility of this team and the fiscal choices they make in going and getting a KJ Jefferson just for it to be an absolute flop. I mean, those things are important to look at in the biggest picture possible, right? Because, I mean, now you also owe a Ted Roof $1.1 million over the next couple of years that could have been used on the recruiting trail. If they lose Gus, which if and when, like we said, that's going to be a big time buyout. So now you're in a situation where I don't want to say you're hemorrhaging money. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but it is not panning out at all. And
that's the part where I would urge a little bit of caution, because if you take swings that connect, especially at the quarterback position, that can, as quickly as it downturned, it can swing back up. And I don't want to use Colorado as an example because there's no way that Gus Malzahn was going to bring in the resources that came with a Deion Sanders. But, we can use the example of what's going on SMU from that standpoint, right? If you hit on what you're doing on BYU, what is it, Eric, that they have on offense that's most important to their game? It's very easy. It's a quarterback.
Zetloff, yeah. Struggled a little bit last year, but has played well this year.
He's been excellent this year, yeah.
Quarterback's been good. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's a combination of those things, and that if KJ plays like he did, if KJ played like he did in Arkansas, and listen, I'm going to defend Gus. I wrote an article saying, look, this puts him in the mix. I don't know why it didn't work. I honestly don't know. I'd like to know. I feel there's more to that story. It's one of the more bizarre stories.
Mental. I
It
think
could
it's
be
mental, not physical.
Could be. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
So
what else is left?
So you look then, you're about to lose your two main points of stability. I would say not just for the offense, but for the team, specifically in RJ. He's going to the league. And then Kobe Hudson's a fifth year. Where are they going? They don't have any answer at quarterback. And I understand that college football, it's a turnover league, more and more increasingly so, especially with NIL. But it does not feel like this team has a clear path forward for anything top down, anything.
I'm not going to go that far. And by the way, the bigger threat and all of that we're not talking about here because it's not cool to do so. But I'm a little concerned about the beef and how many aging players are there too as well. At least
it's a rebuild. What we're all saying is there should be a rebuild.
It's bigger than a rebuild. We're full reboot, I think.
Yeah, maybe. And that's the thing, right? So if you're Gus, you're going to have to think long and hard. Do you want to be a part of that? Do you want to be a part of that landscape today? Right? That's a big overhaul in today's day and age. And then if he does, what's he going to do at offensive coordinator? What's he going to do at defensive coordinator? What's he going to do? Is he going to what about special teams? Like, there's a lot of questions here.
So sorry to interrupt you guys, but Trace Trocco of Suns posted
heard of him.
With Gus. He said, Gus apparently says, "I'm not retiring." That was 10 minutes ago.
Whoa.
So now there's more conflict.
Wow.
Now,
baby.
Yeah, now that could just be media pandering, but I feel like someone like Gus does not want to go out this way, but is Terry going to want to keep him around?
Well, and again, I without knowing the context of the question and all of that, obviously I'll see the clip myself at another time to comment better. But
you could probably, Don, if you got the clip, can you send me the clip? We'll play the clip right now. We'll react live.
Yeah, that'd be great. But while you're looking for that, I'll say this: it depends on the context too of what was said. Like, without knowing the question and all of that, and credit to Trace because he's probably the guy that broached the topic. If I know him listen, I respect what he does because he's a guy that can handle those topics professionally. I mean this as a compliment. I'm willing to bet that the question came from him, and if it didn't, fine. But I say all that to say, the context and what can be interpreted there is important because did he mean, is he retiring after this game, after the season, or was it just asked in general? And
well played, Kyle. Well said. Well said. I know you don't see me, and trust me, you're not missing much. But well said.
I think so hard on yourself, Eli. Christ.
Well, I mean, he's feeling bad that he can't see us, and I'm like, trust me, it's not like. It'd be one thing if it was like, Demi Moore in her prime, then I would say, yeah, you better fix it, but you're not. All right. I was going to say other people, but I didn't want to get in trouble.
Well, you just aged yourself too, by the way, mentioning Demi Moore, but
I loved him. I loved him. I loved Demi Moore. Anyway, but you make a great point. Doesn't matter what he says today. Because you're right. It's all in context. That's a fantastic. Kyle, you and I have covered many pressers. Many different sports. How many times has a coach said, "Oh, no, we're gonna be fine"? Next thing you know, 2 days later, they change their mind. All of a sudden, what happened? There was a story this week. There was a story. Mike Mularkey was on a show, and he admitted that he lied to Ian Rappaport back when he was the Jags head coach here. Kyle, I don't know if you were still covering the Jags when Mularkey was there now. So Mularkey leaked it, or everybody was speculating whether his future. He told Ian Rappaport he was going to stay. He was going to survive. And so the report came out that he's staying for a year. The next day, they basically fired him officially. So you just never know.
Yeah, no, you don't. And I mean, you guys put it more eloquently than I did because you've simply been at this longer than I have. But that's kind of what I was trying to allude to is, yes, context. Like, is he pandering to media? Is he just saying something in the emotion of the moment? We don't know where this is going. We probably won't know until minimally tomorrow, if not a little bit longer after that. But worth mentioning, even if emotions are high right now, or
Oh,
very
yeah.
low, which I'm sure they are, because I mean, we talked about Gus looking incredibly defeated at the bye week presser, and now things are even worse. So
Or after the bye week, yeah.
after the bye week as
Yeah.
well.
So and I'll even throw this in while we try to put that that clip together. Him admitting or sorry, him saying that he's not retiring could actually be smoke that it's another thing because he doesn't want those rumors to swirl. He could be completely pulling. He could be giving us a bunch of malarkey, right, Eric? Yeah. See what I did there?
For sure.
All right, audience, we're gonna play
I've
this
got
clip.
the clip. Yeah, let's play this clip here from Gus Malzahn here post game here about his future.
Football Scoop Rose suggested the possibility of your retirement. He said something that
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. I'm not retiring.
How tough has this season been for you? Going into last season, you never had a losing season in your career. Now we'll be back-to-back losing seasons.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow. There's no doubt. Really disappointed. This has been a tough season. I think everybody knows that. We had high expectations, and we lost some really close games that we felt like we should have won. But it's been tough. But we got a lot of really, really fine young men in that locker room that we're disappointed for. And like I said, we got one game, and that's what we're going to focus on, trying to finish the right way.
Because if you, in the offseason, if you decide to make some changes to the staff or whatever you're going to do, maybe after the season goes, how are the challenges that to do that with an early signing period that's like a week after the regular season, and you got the portal opening up? How challenging will that be if you wanted to make changes to the
season? We'll cross that bridge when it gets here. I'm going to focus this next 6 days on winning the game, and that's what my focus will be on.
You talked a lot in the offseason about self-reflection. As you look back on that, what is most disappointing about the course of the events this season?
Yeah, I think you got to look at it as a whole. We had high expectations, and we've had a lot of different things happen, and we played 4 different quarterbacks, and we've had a lot of adversity. And like I said, we lost close games. That's what really sticks out to me. And then you don't go to a bowl game. I mean, that's really disappointing. And we gotta work on winning next week and turn this thing around.
All right, that was Gus Malzahn moments ago in a postgame following UCF's loss to West Virginia, 31-21. Guys, I want your reaction starting with you, Kyle, based on that sound bites there from Gus.
Yeah, and by the way, it wasn't Trace that asked the question. I guess I'm wrong, but I guess we're. Yeah, I assumed because he's good at doing that, man. He's good at doing that, making it professional.
Well, probably there was a report out from Football Scoop that the guy was kind of reacting to what his future would be.
Right, and I think I mean, heck, in conversations that any of we media folk out there we would have to consider that possibility, especially with all the fans clamoring for Gus to go and what ways fiscally UCF can save themselves from his buyout. Donnie Ducks very astutely pointed out how big that number was. It's between 12 and 13 million, by the way, for those who are wondering. That's around the range that it's rumored to be at this point. But when I hear it, him answering out back, like, no, I'm not retiring. He's like, I got the vibe of, bro, I'm finishing the year. Chill out. Now, if he retires in the summer or something, that's a separate conversation, right? I would wonder if the strategy might be to keep him through the recruitment process, kind of reboot those guys, and then maybe they do kind of a handoff plan. Just the way the calendar is in college football, it makes it pretty darn awkward, no matter what you do, to change out a head coach. And listen, we've heard all the stories surrounding Brian Kelly at LSU, for example, about how he was on a recruiting trip when he got the call from the Bayou Bengals, right? So, all of that is just part of the game here, in the college football landscape. But yeah, the long and the short is I think we see interpretation there. Obviously, he's disappointed. There's a lot there, not to be callous about it. There's a lot there that he said that I'm not surprised to hear.
And by the way, name me a coach that right after a game said, yeah, guys, by the way, just want to let you know, I'm done. I'm good.
I think it's more of the
his
fact
lawyer
that,
wouldn't even allow that to happen. I mean, come on. Nobody in their right mind would do that. Kyle, if we owed you $12 million, as long as you don't say that you're retiring from the industry, You're not going to say you're retired, even if you have intentions of retiring, until you get your money. Any human being would do that.
I mean, listen, that's.
And I'm
just
not
the
saying that he
business.
might not. I'm not saying there's a chance. I mean, he might come back. He might want to come
Yeah,
back.
that's on the table, and obviously Night Nation would not be a fan, as it would seem today. But take the other question asked about recruiting, asked by the Sentinels, Matt Murchell. He responded, we'll cross that bridge and all of that. If I almost think him brushing that off and not saying we'll cross that bridge because I'm not in a space to even think about that would have been more credible than him just shoveling it off. That argument could be made. I'm still trying to kind of make of what I'm thinking about it here in the moment.
Sounds like me. You're going to have a fun post game next week with Utah.
Yeah, it's going to be
mean,
great. I'm excited to be there. I think in saying this, though, I think that this is why, as you guys alluded to before we even watched the clip, that context was so important. Because, no one in their right mind is going to come out and just announce their retirement like that, especially when so much money is on the line that are tied to certain legal and contractual factors. In saying that, though, I think that Gus has this template, and this is what I've learned from my first season covering UCF football. He has this template that he sticks to, which a lot of coaches do. He's never been an overly animated coach. He's never been super expressive with the media. He's not quite as bad as a Bill Belichick. He's somewhere in the middle. I will say this much, though. It felt like that was a very sharp, and I'm not trying to fish here, just from my eyes only, my opinion, that felt like a sharp, fast response to the question by Brandon Helwig of, I don't know where that came from. So it's clear that he's frustrated that there's even rumors out there. And whether it's UCF or somewhere else, because I've seen rumors of him, I might go to Arkansas, who the hell knows? But the point, the point being here is that, we're in a very contentious situation. It's a contentious situation for him. It's a contentious situation for everybody involved. And we're not going to get a clear-cut answer for, it could be soon or it could be quite a long time, i.e. the summer, like our own Kyle Nash just stated. I would hope it doesn't last that long or they are absolutely screwed.
Well, no, I think the point is it can't because as you heard in the soundbite, there's the calendar. You got signing day is December 4th. The transfer portal, I believe, opens Monday after Thanksgiving. It's not like you have a lot of time. And I think that's why people look, the question has to be asked. It's out there. It's just an awkward time right after a game. A coach is never going to, say, now that you say it, now you bring it up. There's a lot of, like I said earlier, Kyle, before you got in, there's a lot of soul searching right now from Gus and a lot of people as far as does he feel he can fix this? Can he fix this next year? And what is the plan? And, like I said, he was asked the question by Matt Murchell. What are you, from a staff standpoint, you've got to make some decisions quickly as well, because it affects your recruiting and et cetera. That's it all kind of comes in there. Coaches have complained about the new calendar in college football, but it's here this year. And that's why there's kind of this urges, that's why you see a lot of coaches come out and say, I'm coming back, or, hey, like Mac Brown, for example, said he intends on being back. Right. So and I think what has not helped this situation, we haven't heard anything until just now. That is the first time Gus has addressed the future in any aspect. And I'm not even sure that was a clear, I'm not retiring. That's cool.
I think that can be defended, though. I think that can be defended.
I agree. I'm defending the answer. No, I'm defending it. I'm defending it. Yeah. But that's why it's all bubbled up.
Yeah, and I think that's correct. And heck, just on the outside chance he is kept aboard, he has to keep recruiting as if he's still intact. That's the correct move to make if your intention is to continue coaching. So there's that to consider as well. You've got to send the message right after you've just gotten another boom from a major receiver recruit. You have to maintain that you're staying in the building.
Right. If you announce today you're retiring, that thing goes out the window. So I don't read. I've maintained we'll get answers after the Utah game, one way or the other.
Yeah, I feel bad to be blanking on that kid's name, but he is a 4-star, I believe.
Boggs is the kid.
Boggs, yeah.
I guess we were all kind of bogged down.
There you go.
Go get your bell.
So we'll see. There you go. Other questions of note. Let's see. People are asking about the turnovers today. How much of a factor was that in the result today? How much do you put onus
course.
there? Flies checking in, asking about the turnovers. They're asking about that. Were turnovers bad this game last year? I remember we struggled with turnovers against West Virginia at home.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the fumble early gave West Virginia a chance to get to that 14-0 lead to go 21-7 at the half. And then after the half, score again. You mentioned earlier, that was kind of the backbreaker, Elo. Yeah, I think that was kind of where it went. I'm not here to go right out and say it changes the game, especially with the way that West Virginia had a proper game plan. And listen, even without that turnover, I believe all that really kind of changes is that there would have been more yardage on the ground for C.J. Donaldson in the first quarter.
By the way, Fraser says, thank you guys so much for making these discussions, even though the losses suck. It's nice to dig into them sometimes. It makes everyone feel a little better.
What we're here for.
Are you feeling better, Kyle? You're right now. I know you're disappointed. You can't see me.
Sports fan therapy, once again. This is what the student of the game does here at the Black and Gold Banneret. What can I say?
And to talk about the fumble in the first half here, I mean, isn't that another sort of at least indictment on the running back room? Because that was in part, at least it seemed, again, I tuned into the game late, but the broadcasters were making it seem like that was Miles Montgomery's fault. And so are you getting the consistency needed outside of RJ Harvey in this back room? So say RJ hypothetically were to go down with an injury, this team would be clearly worse off, but not just from a production standpoint, from a discipline standpoint. Like,
you know, I don't know. For the most part, Miles Montgomery has been pretty clean with the football. So yeah. I'm not going to go out and say, blasphemer, burn him. No, it's not where I'm going.
No.
But I will say it's not a great look, obviously, right?
Yeah.
You know, the teams that are good and bad in any league are the ones that inflict themselves. And by any league, I mean literally any sport as well, right? You know, one thing your Cavaliers weren't doing were shooting themselves in the foot until they played the Celtics, for example, right? It's the same thing all the way around. You can't do it. Now, you know, I would bring up my coverage of the Jacksonville Jaguars in the Duval Dive, but it's the same sort of thing. Every game, it's something they do to themselves, except against the Lions, where the Lions also did it to them as well. Separate question. But yeah, I'm not necessarily panicking over Miles Montgomery, but you know, I do think it's just another oops example out there of what UCF has.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at in the grand scheme. Yeah.
Kevin Suarez chiming in. You guys are awesome. Backwards hat Kyle is a dog.
I mean, this is usually what I do, but I appreciate it.
He's a dog.
He turns into something else.
So Eric Edwards with a question for the three of you, and maybe this is more of a podcast question after the season instead, but just I'm throwing it out. What are the top 5 things that caused this season to go south? Do you want to wait, Kyle, to attack, or do you want to address that now?
I'll put it this way: we've given them number 1 right here on this podcast. So there's that.
Yeah. Fair. Good start. It's good start there. Let me ask you both this. Don, you're going to be at this Utah game on Black Friday. Kyle, you will not. You'll have family obligations. At the beginning of the year, this looked like it was going to be a monster game. Now, I feel like Kyle's got the better situation. I'll leave it as I don't like. In all seriousness, what are you expecting from this game? You got 2 teams that have had disappointing years. Utah was the preseason pick in the Big 12. They're not. They've had injuries, etc. And UCF's not even going to a bowl game. I know you're going to tell me, hey, it's senior day. You got to play for your seniors. Boy, we're going to hear that cliche a lot this week. Because in my response to that is like, how come you didn't play for your seniors the rest of the year? But anyway, what do we expect here this week, guys, from an on the field? I mean, we know there's going to be a lot of speculation about the future and all that stuff. I'm just focusing about the on the field. What do we expect this Friday night? Because I don't have a clue what to expect.
Yeah, you know, go ahead, Kyle. I'll let you
start. Go hit it. Go.
You know, I think it's going to be one of those things where both of these teams have completely fallen off the wagon. And at this point, it's which one of them can crawl out of the mud just enough to leave with their head held high and look forward to next season, and which one, the other, conversely, is going to have their tail further between their legs. I mean, this is just playing for that one little bit of optimism, whatever can be pulled from that whatsoever, because the landscape has entirely changed in this position. So I look to see whoever's out there to play hard. I wonder, though, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, if this is blasphemous, is there a chance that RJ Harvey sits a la some players sitting for a bowl game that's meaningless to preserve his draft stock and combine appearance in the event of an injury? Or do you think he takes the field?
Listen, I can go either way, and this actually kind of ties in what I was about to say. Everything you dropped there, Donnie Docs, is awesome. I think what it is if I'm RJ Harvey, I am thinking about what my stock is today, especially now that I 100% do not have a bowl game. I need this film. I need this game that's nationally relevant and force-fed down the down the throats of fans and scouts out there who are finding an excuse to get away from their in-laws to watch this mother-loving football game, okay?
In an incredibly clogged running back draft, by the way.
Thank you. Moreover, this Utah defense is the high point of what's remaining.
They're still very good. Their struggles this year is not because of the defense necessarily, but more of the offense issues.
Right. Yeah. It's Cam Rising falling. That's awful. But
that was not your best work, Kyle.
I feel kind of bad about that. But moving on, the punchline is Utah's defense is strong, and if RJ Harvey can continue, if he drops 130 on Utah, someone's going to take notice. And listen, but Kyle, it's one game. It doesn't matter. Zach Wilson of Brigham Young University coming out and brutally murdering UCF got him drafted as high as he did by the New York Jets. And the proof further that the New York Jets front office is still awful, he did that in a game where UCF was missing, count them, 9 defensive starters. At least in this particular football game, gentlemen, unless we hear otherwise, we're all pretty certain at this point that Utah defenders will also be making their case for the NFL in stopping a running back like RJ Harvey and a receiver like Kobe Hudson in order to plead their case, as they also, too, as far as I understand, don't have a bowl game yet.
Yeah, and what's funny about that Zach Wilson there is a lot of people out there would say, oh, well, it was a COVID truncated year. The scouts and GMs didn't know what they were seeing. The Jets are a tire fire. That's a whole different conversation.
That's the wrong podcast. We can talk again sometime on the Student of the Game where you were on last week.
Yeah. But point being, you may that's a great answer to the question, Kyle. That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, it's funny as it sounds. Not getting a bowl game might be what keeps these kids on the field.
I think it's an interesting topic. I didn't expect to go this route. I think RJ will play, but I think the answer is maybe he plays but doesn't get the full load,
limited
of touches. Right?
Yeah.
Like I thought it was interesting today that Montgomery, I thought, got more touches than normal. Like in recent. Like especially in the second half, I could see a scenario. Because I know there's some historical stats that RJ is approaching, like I think he's what is it, Kyle? He's tied with Kevin Smith.
Yep, overall touchdowns. Yeah,
career.
So that's another reason we'll see RJ in at least for the first half.
Right. So I think he'll dress up. It's his last home game. That's it. I mean, it's not like he is a high draft pick guy right now. I mean, he's not a first round projected back.
All the more reason he needs to get that film in. Elo.
Yeah. Correct.
Right.
Right.
Broadcast team thinks he's a third rounder, from what I heard. So
well, and Kyle knows this, and whether it's right or wrong, a lot of this is going to come down to the combine and the pro days and how he does.
Well.
Also, all it takes is one. Yeah. So
yeah, exactly. But I would say he plays, but I do think there's a cap on how many touches, because I do think you need to protect him because you don't want an injury. To your point, which is obviously the concern there. But I think he plays. I don't think he gets the amount of touches he's gotten all year. That's my answer. Do you any disagreements there?
Oh, okay. Let's put the over under at 9.5. What do you think, Elo?
Touches or carries?
Good question. I'm gonna say carries.
It's right. Good number. I think it's right around that number. 10, 11 carries.
So you're saying a slight over. Donnie Docs.
I'm going to go with a slight over. I'm going to say 10 carries, depending on.
Yeah, that's a good number. That's a good number.
Depending on what they decide to do in terms of wheel routes, or if Risk or whoever the hell's out there is getting his ass pressured and he's trying to run away, if he needs to dump off real quick, maybe 2 to 3.
Could we see Penny Boone?
Hold on. Wheel routes don't count as carries. That's the difference between touches and carries.
No. I know. I was just talking about overall touches. See, that's what I was alluding to in general. Yeah, I think in totality, around maybe 13 to 14 touches. It really just depends on the landscape of the game.
So he's confident over.
I'm not as confident, but who knows? Juices are going. Could we maybe see Penny Boone make get out of the witness protection and get a play
off the back of the milk carton, right? Yeah, maybe he comes in the second half and gets, let's say, 5 or more carries. Sure.
Do we see E.J. Colson get some reps?
I don't think so. At this point, Dylan Risk needs enough development still to where there's a benefit to him playing the football game. If it gets out of hand, sure.
Just keep in mind, if EJ plays this game, you can still redshirt him.
Correct. That's why I think.
So that's why I bring it up.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
And again, you don't get those extra practices from the bowl game. So if you want to give EJ some extra reps, this is the game to do it.
Correct.
Yeah, I think you got to. Yeah, now that's a good point. This would be the game to do it. But also, if you think that Risk has any future with this program, you have to trust him in the continuity of the situation and keep him out there.
Interesting to see what the attendance will be. It's a Black Friday night. What's the people enthused?
People going to be gone for Thanksgiving break, going home to see family, especially with this being a losing.
Not wanting to come back, not willing to come back.
I feel like it could end.
Kyle ain't coming back. Kyle refuses. He doesn't want to come back. He's a family man. Right?
Hold on.
No, I'm defending you. I'm defending you. You've got.
I know. I
don't want to. I'm being held hostage, Eric Lopez. There's a difference.
I know. I gotta go practice him for the pregame video. I'm stepping in for him.
Even our own Bryson Turner's being held hostage. Okay,
we're working.
I know, Don. You're gonna be in. Don, you're gonna be in Kyle's shoes. You're right. You're gonna.
This is Donnie Docs filling in for the student of the game here on this.
I just realized this is Kyle's last. This is Kyle's last night shift after a UCF football game.
It's been a fun season, guys. I know I didn't join up until after TCU, but nevertheless.
Well, you better join next week, because otherwise I got nobody to talk to.
I'm here. You'll catch me in the box. I will be excited to stay in that box and do this and then write that story until 2 or 3 a.m. because that thing is getting out late, guys. Oh, my goodness. Not even going to be midnight.
Well, next week's an 8 o'clock kick.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. We thought we got out of Gainesville late.
Well, welcome to the Banneret there, Donnie Docs. There you go.
On Fox, man, their commercials are longer. Boy, I mean, we'll be lucky if a million people will be watching this game in the country. Kyle, you might be sleeping by the time this game ends. I mean, I might.
Well, I'm on Central Time, so I do have that going for it.
I might need an alarm. I might need an alarm system. And like, guys, Don has hit me up. Don is like, hey, I'm ready to go. All right, let's do the night shift.
I mean, to be honest, if it's late enough, maybe I'll check in from New Orleans there, and have the opportunity to make fun of Eric Lopez needing 4 syllables to describe that city.
Oh, love that city. Been there. Again, I don't think you have it as bad as off. I wish I was there. Shoot. All right, give me your final thoughts before we wrap this up here, because we got a lot of stuff to cover. Kyle's got to get ready for a trip, family trip. Don's covering hoops. We're not going to talk about hoops because men's hoops that didn't go well. It's not a good weekend to be in West Virginia so far for UCF teams. So I'll leave it as that.
I mean, hey, the ladies took care of their business. I'll give them that much.
They were struggling. They were nip and tuck there with SIUE there.
It was funny to see. If you know about Hack-a-Shack in the 90s, right, Eric Lopez?
Yeah,
with the Orlando Magic.
Very well. Oh, yeah.
They SIUE brought in Hack-a-Hannah to try to attack the ladies. It was a very interesting thing.
Wow.
You could definitely read about that on the blackandgoldbanneret.com.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's I've said for weeks this is a 5-alarm fire. Put it out. They didn't put it out. The building burned down. So whatever happens.
Wow.
Whatever happens next week, like I said, whoever leaves with their tail between their legs. Sorry, it only got worse for you.
Hello.
but we'll see what happens.
Wow. So yeah, UCF last game of the year will be on Friday night, 8:00 or so kick for the Utah UCF game. Holy smokes! Believe it or not, folks, it'll be on Fox for now. Fox doesn't have any other choice; they got to air it.
Yeah.
We will be on live after that game, no matter what time, how late that is. It'll be late.
This is truly going to be the night shift pod.
Listen, I remember
really
2021 we did a one with after the Boise game where they had lightning delay. I don't think we got out of there till like the game didn't finish till like 2-3 in the morning.
I wasn't with the Banneret, but I did not get home after doing all my posts and stuff because I was doing everything by myself. I did not have the benefit of help from the members of the Banneret because I wasn't here yet. I didn't get home myself till close to 4 or 5 a.m. that night.
Yeah.
But we don't have to wait that long to read your night class, do we, Kyle?
Not tonight, you don't.
It is up right now on blackandgoldbanneret.com. Make sure you check it out right now. Pass it along to your friends on all your favorite social media platforms. Don, tell everybody where they can find us.
All right. So you can find us on X or formerly Twitter at UCF Banneret _SBN, Black and Gold Banneret on Instagram and Threads, as well as Facebook. And now we are.
Wait a minute. No, say it.
What? Were you interrupting me? I was going to say.
No, I'm not interrupting you. I'm getting excited for it. We're cool. We're hip kids. We have this too, Donnie Docs.
We are now on Blue Sky. So anyone who
Woo!
a little break from Twitter, or if you just want to sign up for another social platform, you can also find us on Blue Sky at ucfbanneret.bsky.social for the exact username.
Don't sound like such a grumpy old man talking about it, Donnie Docs. Be careful.
We only did it because UCF is successful in Citronaut Blue, so we just figured it was.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, if anything else, you're doing it to follow probably one of the best media teams in the nation. Shouts to Eric DeSalvo and company.
And also, folks, I imagine most of you here are already subscribed to our channel, but if you're not, we are getting close to the 1,000 mark. That would be great. Help us out. Tell your friends. Share us around. We appreciate your support as always.
Yeah, check out the YouTube
don't say
channel.
it with such finality. There's still plenty of stuff. I would imagine Eric Lopez will be stoked to do one of these after some of these key conference games that are upcoming here late December, early January.
We're hoops. We're basketball school, right? Right, Don?
That's
we're
right.
basketball school.
Yeah, we are now, especially.
As you can tell, Kyle, Don's not taking this very well this year.
No, I'm having a great time. I'm happy to just be here. I mean, all the stuff I've been able to do, man, it's been.
What was
fun.
the line about the fire? What was that line again?
Yeah, it's a 5-alarm fire that I told them to put out weeks ago, and they never did, so the building burned down.
Lord, here comes Eric Lopez. You out negative to Eric Lopez. That
is the line of the season. I can't top that. I don't think anybody can top that. All right, let's wrap it up on that highlight of a note. Be safe, everybody. Check out blackandgoldbanneret.com for the latest in UCF, all sports. We'll have possibly a regular podcast at some point this week. We'll break down, get ready for Utah. We'll see what else pops up. And, of course, check out the subscription. Make sure you like us. Give us a subscription and like us. Thumbs up on all your favorite places, as well as a podcast and everything else. For Don Strouble, for Kyle Nash, who has his night class up right now. Don't have to wait. It's up right now. What grades did he give the offense and the defense and special teams? If you don't like it, well, just, tell them why you don't like it. And if you like it, tell me why you like it.
It's the last one of the season, folks. You got to take advantage.
It's his last. Oh, God, I forgot. It's your last. It's the last one.
I mean, am I supposed to have some sort of heartbreaking song performance now? Is that it?
If we were allowed to.
All
right. For Kyle Nash and Don Strouble, I'm Eric Lopez. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Night Shift live here once again as UCF falls to West Virginia 31-21. Good night and charge on.